Hello, today I have a guest, Rawlin Vanetta. He and I met in Myron's Inner Circle. We have just hit it off ever since. Every time I talk to this man, he's brilliant. And we talk about marketing, about sales, persuasion, the Bible. It's just so fun. I've thoroughly enjoyed each of our conversations, and now I wanted to gift to you one of my favorite, probably is the favorite person that I've met in the entire mastermind, and I've really enjoyed all of our connections together. Rawlin has been a successful restaurant owner in the Tennessee area, and he has trained under Russell Brunson's coaching, has works on the team of Myron Golden, and he has his own successful health education business, and he's just an all-around, very knowledgeable, accomplished individual. So I wanted to bring him onto the team. Bring him onto this interview to be able to ask some questions, and I think is going to give a lot of value. So thanks for being here today, Rawlin.
Pleasure to be here.
So
one quick correction. So about I don't know, 9 months to a year ago. I guess about a year ago now. I actually left working with Myron. So we're still friends and stuff, but I actually left. I don't actually work on his team anymore. I needed to spend more time on my health coaching business, and so it just made sense. But Myron said he considers me a friend and a colleague now. So, we still have a great relationship. But I just wanted to correct that. I didn't want anybody to think I was still currently working with him.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, no worries.
So could you briefly tell us about your journey from owning a traditional restaurant to becoming a health coach, and why did you make that shift?
So it was a while back. To be honest, I was making fun of my first cousin at a Christmas celebration, a Christmas get-together, and he was not eating any of the quote-unquote good stuff, and I was the guy making fun of him, pride before the fall, haughty spirit before destruction. But he was a really smart guy, and thank God I wasn't. It was in jest rather than in seriousness. And he put me on the kind of the path of just really realizing some stuff and understanding just how health education is just not a part of the traditional medical system, and how that it is, even for professionals that are in those fields, if they discover things in a more natural realm, if they discover things that actually reverse things, some of our most deeply chronic diseases, some of our most incredible chronic diseases are completely reversible, and they're taught in medical school that the cause is unknown, and that the only treatment is through the pharmaceutical industry. And while I'm not going to say that there's never any need for a pharmaceutical under any circumstance, we are one of the sickest nations on the planet, and 77% of kids are not eligible for the military because of how poor our health is.
Wow.
And so, yeah, and so if you look and you just go back and you look and you look and you look, and I just uncovered a lot of things. And so there was a time, and of course I was running a restaurant in Middle Tennessee. You can hear my accent. I'm from Tennessee, very Southern. And, people always get a kick out of that. But at the end of the day, what happened was, to fast forward, it was bothering me because I was serving some of the worst foods for people's health. And I had changed my diet, saw a lot of results. My dad had reversed his acid reflux. He'd lost 50 pounds. My father, and high blood pressure were gone. My father-in-law, I shared this with my immediate family. My wife would have ovarian cysts. They went away. Like all these things happened that were just incredible. My mom used to, when she was real stiff in the morning, and then that just went away. Just all her knees used to click. All those things happened. But yet, everything that I would not eat was what I was selling on a daily basis. Not just selling, but promoting as a marketer. Because I found out really quickly as many people do, as soon as you get, like, you have a business, you have a thing, you got to market that sucker. You can't, it's the whole build it and they will come does not work at all. And so, I mean, there's in very developed markets and stuff that can be the case. You put the location in the right place, things like that. But in general, like, especially if you have, a cause that you're champion, or you're trying to make a difference, you're dealing with, you're going to have to get involved in education and really belief shifts. And that's what marketing is, as I discovered. And I was like, I don't want to be the health guy. Like, I do not want to be the health guy. Who want, after I do catering jobs with 2,400 pieces of bone-in fried chicken, why in the world would they like me, people that's followed me in my social media and things like that? Why in the heck, my restaurant social media, why in the heck would they care anything about me just telling them? And then I would look like a charlatan. I would look like some terrible person that's just been literally peddling these terrible products for so many years while simultaneously, like, not eating them myself, and then me coming and telling them about it. But then I had a moment when my firstborn son was born in 2020, 1 week before they shut down the country for COVID, and I was rocking my son to sleep, and I said a prayer. I said, "Thank you, Lord Jesus." I was looking down at him. I don't know if anybody has children, but that moment, he was my firstborn, so it's like, oh, this is real life. Like, I gotta, like, this is, like, I'm like the role model here, right? And so what's really fascinating is just a little bit before this, I was doing these large, like, people was driving from Kentucky, and I was doing these because COVID was shut down. And so had shut down the dining, and so I started doing all this branch out, and we'd do these giant packages, and we had, like, cars wrapping around the building to pick up these giant packages of food that I was really marketing hard, and I felt bad because these people would, like, get them out the grocery, like, I'd be handing them the food that I know is unhealthy, right, and that they did not know was not healthy. Right, or maybe they knew, they probably knew it wasn't the best thing to eat, but, like, they were, like, didn't know how detrimental it was, right? At least for most people. And then the people would be like, "Thank you so much. I'm a type 2 diabetic, and I have neuropathy in my feet, and it makes it so much better. So I can't go walk around, and I'm worried, and I'm just in comorbidities, and I've got this, and my husband just had a heart attack 2 weeks ago, and this has just been so helpful to us, so he didn't have to cook so much." And I'm, like, crying on the inside, smiling on the front side, literally feeling like almost a villain in a movie without realizing it. And like none of it was, like, purposeful. None of it. It was just like I was like, oh, how am I gonna pay my rent? Like, how am I gonna? I've got 2 restaurants here. Like, I had a manager of my second location that just purchased a house, and she was betting on the fact of me selling food. Right, like, so, like, I had all these responsibilities and people. So, and then, of course, when I would talk to people in private about it, they'd be like, "Oh man, nobody wants to hear that. They don't want to hear anything about health. They don't want to know anything about that. Like, you just do it. If they don't get it from you, they're gonna get it from somebody else. But just do what you're doing, right? Right?" And I'm like, but there was something in me. And so a few months later, it's when I was holding my son and I was looking down at him. I was rocking him to sleep, and I said, "Lord Jesus, thank you so much for letting me know so he doesn't have to unlearn the bad habits that I had to unlearn." The moment there was, like, this crash down of weight that said, "What makes you think other people wouldn't thank me too if you would just open your mouth?" And I knew the restaurant was over at that time. I didn't know how to do it, but the Lord showed me different paths and opened up different things. And I took a big risk, or not really a risk looking back on it. As Steve Jobs says, you can never connect the dots looking forward, but you can always connect the dots looking back. And so God moved it in a way, and launched a health coaching business with someone that I had met about a year or two ago, prior to that time. And I shut down my restaurants, and completely started this health coaching business, sold my restaurants, joined many masterminds with the prophets, and in order to learn the marketing game, I'd already been studying it for a few years, trying to get out, but it wasn't until I was willing to yield, really truly yield to that call, to leave right? Like the children of Israel couldn't walk through the Red Sea until they left the bondage of Egypt, right? Like the manna couldn't fall until they got to the wilderness, right? Like it didn't fall in Egypt; it fell in the wilderness. And so, looking back on it, I realized that it just took that true leap of faith to be able to then kind of build my business, and the Lord's blessed it in many ways. You know, we do challenges, hundreds of people. We've ran 10,000 people through our 5-day weight loss challenge, and you know, and then how many products and services and things like that. That has just really changed a lot of lives. Like the amount of testimonials for diabetes reversal, things like that we have is insane. But the trick was really God had prepared me with the marketing before that happened. And so I was very fortunate to had learned the marketing through while I still had the restaurant. And so it gave me a completely different shift. And I see so many I see so many health educators that want to do and build something to make a true impact, but they're locked into this system of well, yeah, I got to pay my bills, I got to pay my electricity bill. It's like, but it's actually pretty simple. If you just set up the right systems, but it really takes a shift of the way your brain thinks, because there's like a hat for like the health expertise, and then there's like a hat for the marketing of the health expertise that you got to wear that's different. So anyway, that's kind of the long and short of it. And we've been very, you know, by pretty much anybody's measures, we've been very successful at it, by the grace of God, and it's been fantastic. So
That's really awesome. You shared a lot about how you invested in your marketing skills. You partnered with with a partner that has some different skill sets. I want to talk about that later. And also this shift, because it's so true. It's one thing that I teach frequently is like my biggest breakthrough in business was when the first 15 like failed business attempts to find that 16th business attempt that really became a multiple six-figure business in health education was when I stopped just seeing myself as a health messenger and I started seeing myself as a health marketer. And that is a shift that a lot of people have a hard time. They're like, when it comes to learning about the health and diet, nutrition, and how the body works, and physiology and disease, it's cause, prevention, cure. It's so easy to study and even like pay for certifications or degrees, or just go in that direction of learning health. But can you talk into why would it be important to also invest in time, money, energy into the marketing skills, and how would someone go about becoming a health marketer or having that similar shift as well?
well, because no one gets a bottle of water until they're thirsty. So you know, I see so many health experts, smart people, you know, crazy smart people, and they're so smart in their expertise. The fundamental belief systems that they've acquired happened over time, and they're a complete mismatch to people to speak to, and so they're like so there's a concept that I think about a lot, and it's the concept of you know, a lot of and even a lot of marketers, for example, will talk about talk about your vehicle and talk about your new opportunity in your vehicle and all this kind of stuff. But really, when you're communicating with someone, you got to make sure that you're accurately defining their problem and doing what I call a problem switch. Because and you open up a new market. Because what happens is, if someone thinks, for example, type 2 diabetes is a lifetime chronic disease that is genetic in nature, it does not matter how many times you scream that you have a product that will reverse type 2 diabetes, because they don't believe type 2 diabetes can be reversible. They believe it's genetic. So I think about a problem. So the problem is they have a genetic problem in their mind. So the reality of the situation, based on my knowledge, is that in many, many, many cases, type 2 diabetes can be reversed through lifestyle choices. Okay? we have proof of it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. But then they also have another belief. The standard American believes that because their doctor hasn't told them that, there's a presuppositional belief there that their doctor must know because that's what they do. And I have all kudos and respect for doctors. Man, I tell you what, if my bone gets broken, right, or I get shot, heaven forbid, I am booking it to the emergency room, right? I want them resetting that bone. Like, I want their medical expertise. But when it comes to a chronic disease that's caused by lifestyle factors and those things are not trained, then here's the problem. The common person, and I say the common person, and I don't mean that disrespectfully. I mean, there could be a mechanic that's like, I don't know hardly anything about working on an engine. There can be a mechanic that's like the best mechanic on the planet Earth. I don't know anything about that, right? But they're an expert in that. So they could give me advice in that area. But here's the deal. Like in the same way with investing in a marketer, like I got, when I first launched my restaurant, I thought, hey, if I open a restaurant, we're going to be good. People always talk about how much they want a good restaurant in a small town.
Yeah.
Lies. People say that all the time, but people say a lot of things with their lips that they don't do with their actions. And so what I had to learn to do is I had to position myself regularly and put in front of people. And that's for something they already believe is good. Right? Now, what if they don't even believe it's possible to reverse type 2 diabetes? I'm just using that as an example, right? Let's say it's knee pain, right? If they just believe knee pain is something that happens with old age, then why in the world would they think that it can be reversed? It just has to be managed. And so when I talk about a problem switch, what I'm talking about with a problem switch is what you want to do is you want to redefine the problem. And so for most people, their problem is, especially health educators, especially smart health people, like really especially smart health people. They're so smart in that area, but they have no knowledge on how to problem switch, which is a marketing expertise. And so you had mentioned about investing in marketing education. Marketing education is an expertise that if you're a health educator, you must possess. You don't have a choice about not possessing it. You can't just hire a marketer to do it. You have to educate yourself in it by hiring a mentor or buying a program that is set up to help you learn how to make these belief shifts, how to make these problem switches in order to make someone ready for your new vehicle, your new opportunity, your new thing that you're selling. So if you've discovered a great supplement that does this thing, for example, but if someone don't believe that supplements can make a difference or herbs can make a difference, then it doesn't matter how many containers you shake or how many free samples you give people. It just don't matter. It will never matter because they will smile, take it, put it on their shelf and throw it away a couple months later. It will gather dust in the same way when people, if you don't read books regularly and you buy a book and you get excited about it, it's going to go on in the shelf and it's going to gather dust unless you already have the habit of doing that, unless you already have the expertise of acquiring knowledge out of books. Most people don't do that. So they have to set themselves in a completely new environment for a new education to completely rethink how they do things. So I hope I answered your question in that way.
Yeah, you answered the question. And that environment is so key. Like, put ourselves in an environment that normalizes the achievement we desire to reach. That's why I love investing also in coaching programs, mentorships, events, because you're surrounded by health marketers. You're surrounded with entrepreneurs who are thinking about these things. So, like,
well, I say with my clients all the time, like, if you can get 100 people working on your problem instead of just you get way faster farther, right? Because you're looking at that same problem from 100 different directions. So if you get 100 different brains, even if those brains are not as smart as your brain, they're going to outpace your brain by itself. They can't not, right? And so I always talk about people. It's information and environment. Information and environment. Like, I have a country accent. The only reason I have a country accent is because of the information and the environment in which I was raised. That's it. You know, I can't remember who said it, but they said that you're a combination of the 5 people you're around the most and the books you read, right? And it might have been, I can't think of the guy's
I think
name,
Jim Rohn says that a lot.
Jim Rohn.
Yeah,
I'm pretty
I
sure
learned it
it's
from him.
a similar quote, right? And you're the mentor quote guy, dude. You can pull out the quotes like mad, I know. So I think it is Jim Rohn that said that. And so, like if you want to, if you how different will you be 2 years from now? Who you surround yourself with, and what books you read, which is the information and the environment that you put yourself in. And that's the shift, because that's the inputs that create the outputs. It's just math. It's literally mathematics. Whatever you input, you output. You input, you output. You read the Bible, you're gonna output the Bible, right? If you read health stuff, you're gonna output health knowledge, right? Now, but here's the problem. If someone else don't have the input of understanding they need the health knowledge, here's the problem. And you don't have the skill set to do so, you can output health knowledge all day long and no one's going to pay no attention.
So I like that you say skill set, because the word skill implies that it's like a muscle you can strengthen and develop. And it's not something that people are just naturally talented marketers. It's like we don't come out of our mother's wombs knowing how to influence the masses and hold a microphone. These are skills that we acquire as we go. So what would you say to someone who is feeling like marketing and investing in like a mentor is a luxury that really already successful and financially equipped have, as opposed to, was there a time where you realized, like me, when we didn't have the means, realizing that investing in mentorship was the key to change our financial situation for the rest of our lives?
Yeah, I was sitting in a little green room, a little stock room in my restaurant when this happened to me, sitting on a 5-gallon bucket, an empty 5-gallon bucket with a sack of sugar in my lap, 25-pound sack of sugar in my lap with a laptop on top of it. Like, there was an occurrence. So before I was in that room, I was mad when I was in that room. Before I was in that room, I was in a private dining room. My restaurant was doing crappy, okay? And I was mad because we didn't have any restaurants. So I got on a webinar, okay? I got on a webinar. Anybody here? I'm sure somebody, you ever been on a webinar?
Oh yeah, I've been on lots of webinars.
I was on this webinar and I was so excited about it. It was like one of my, and are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Are you good? Okay.
Yeah, I'm here. It sounds like we're disconnecting a little bit. Just getting some.
Oh, was I cutting out or something?
Yeah, you were cutting out. So you asked me, have you ever been on a webinar? I said, I've been on lots of webinars. That's the last thing I heard.
All right. Okay. So I said, so if anybody is watching this on replay or on wherever they're at, put in the comments if you've ever watched a webinar. Right. So if you've never watched a webinar, you need to be watching webinars. That's number one. Number two, if you've never, so this was my very first webinar. Okay. So I'm sitting there, okay, in a private dining room, and my wife is there. We have the kitchen staff doing their stuff, and I'm ready for this webinar, man. It's going to help me grow my restaurant business. I'm going to finally get out of this thing. It's going to be so exciting. This is way before my son came into the picture. This is years before, okay? I think I had the restaurant for 2 years at this time, okay? We were struggling hard. And then guess what happened? Someone came and needed the dining room like 3 minutes before I got on that webinar. And I didn't have an office at the time. I was so mad, which is kind of ridiculous considering that I was mad because we didn't have business. And then when we had business come in, it made me mad that business. Oh, why do they have to come in right now? Like, I've cleared out. Like, they didn't come in yesterday. They come in the day before that. They come in, why today right now, right? It's kind of silly, right? But, so my wife is like, well, I'm going to go help them in the kitchen because they're going to need help with this large party. I'm like, I ain't going to do nothing. I'm getting on this webinar because I want to figure this out. And so I go in the stock room, an ugly green room, turn over a bucket, put my laptop on a sack of sugar, and I'm listening to this webinar. And the guy said something, and it just blew me away. He said, if there are successful people that are in your industry, anywhere around you, do you see them? Are there people doing the same thing as you and are successful? And I had to answer that question, yes. Are you as successful as them? And I had to say, nope. He said, do you really think they're that much smarter than you? I was like, no, many of them are dumb. I know a restaurant down the road that's just like really busy, but he does a lot of dumb stuff. He's still busy. Seems like to me. He says, well, it seems to me like they know something you don't. I was like, whoa. So how do you acquire that knowledge? You have to get around the environment of the people that have that knowledge, that think that way, that do those things. You apply that, oh, son, everything changes. Everything changes rapidly. And usually, when you're doing the least effective currently, is the time it's most important to do it. And that's the hardest time to do it because you usually ain't got a lot of extra cash laying around. That's the problem, right? Because you're like, oh, well, I'll invest in a mentorship. I'll invest in a program. I'll invest in this, that, or that when I become successful. Well, that's a catch-22 because until you get there, you won't be successful, at least for most people. There's always exceptions. There's always exceptions to the rule, right? I don't take that away, but the odds is that when you put yourself in the situation, like the only reason you're a health expert is you put yourself in the environment of health expertise. Like that's it. And so you just got to do it again because it's required for the calling that you have. If this is your calling, then it's a requirement to understand how to communicate your calling, right? To communicate. It's just a requirement. You have to be able, right? That's exactly Moses' big objection. I can't talk good. Right? God was like, don't worry. I'm going to send you somebody that can talk better. Right? Like it's, we have to partner with people. And whether that be from a monetary standpoint, from a business partnership standpoint, from even like me and Enoch doing this right now. Like I've learned things from Enoch. He's learned things from me. Like the whole reason, like he's probably knowing Enoch. He's probably writing notes right now by how I phrase things on this call. And he's a student. He's a student first. And that's the way I perceive things as well. I'm listening. I'm learning. What is it that this person knows that I don't, so I can have a better, more complete picture. And then the acceleration happens in a way that you can't imagine. It's just hard to understand.
Yeah, absolutely. That is so true. And that I really like what you said about if you had 100 people in a room seeking to solve your problem and you think you're going to get better quality answers. I was talking to someone who we were speaking together, and she had been referred to my challenge, my High Income Health Expert Challenge, by a mutual friend of ours. And I was sharing like, hey, I accepted you into the group. And she's like, oh, I thought I deleted that, or I thought I didn't join or decline that. I was like, oh, okay. Well, would you like to know more about the challenge? And she's like, no, I'm at max capacity right now. I've already seen it. And I was like, when you say you're at max capacity, does that mean that you have like so many clients in your health business that you don't know what to do with? Or are you struggling to know how to prioritize? You got a lot of responsibilities and not sure which one to do. And then she's like, well, the latter. I don't have so many clients. I was actually going to do a planning session with myself to figure out what marketing strategies I can do. And then I was like, okay, what way can I add value and help her? And I gave her some feedback of how she could generate more leads from her organic Facebook group, just like 2 quick tweaks that lead to major peaks. For automatic client acquisition, she heard that in a voice note. She's like, this is so helpful. Then she's like, well, can you tell me more about the challenge? And then she joined the challenge. Her mind was blown. She's like, this has made me rethink the whole way that I'm doing business. This is making so much sense. In just a few short hours, she was able to drastically change the way that she is communicating and learning those skills to actually pay the bills and to reach more people. And like what you said, it's by having other minds looking and solving your problem. How many health educators are trying to have an audience of one and try to solve the marketing problems by myself when they don't have to do that? They can put themselves in an environment of a group of people who are all learning together and have already spent hundreds or thousands of hours of investing in resources and time and energy and money to figure out how to solve the problem you have, and we come together and we're able to go so much further together. I like what you shared there.
Yeah, it's and that's the right advice. It reminds me of usually people. Can I just share like a little teaching thing that's probably one of the most like powerful things I've ever discovered?
Yes, and yes, please do.
Okay, you got to give me just a second. So I brought the Vibe. I asked Enoch to kind of cut this out right quick so that you didn't have to worry about me switching things up. But one thing that Enoch that you just said was that this lady had been at capacity, and her reason for not joining the challenge, she said, I'm at capacity. And you made this brilliant question that you asked her. You said that you had mentioned to her, well, are you at capacity because you can't deal with more clients, you can't deal with more customers, or are you capacity for another reason? You're just too busy, you just have all too much going on. And it made me think of this is because every single time that someone is stuck or feels like they're at capacity, or maybe they don't feel like they're at capacity and they know they're ready, it's all a result of, there's a system that, as far as I can tell, that God gave us in Genesis that absolutely is like a productivity blueprint. It's so absolutely mind-blowing. Okay, so the very first thing that God said to humans in Genesis 1:26, okay, and this is a practical read, this is kind of like a pattern that you can extract, okay? I'm not saying that this is the only thing that Genesis 1 means or anything like this. This is just a business, marketing, procedural a mechanism that you can use as a reference. And I know that Enoch, you're a believer. I'm sure many of your followers are. Even if they're not, here's a cool thing. Even if you don't believe, here's the people that are even people that are atheists enjoy this. And here's the reason why: is because you can look at it as an ancient wisdom text. Why was this preserved for this long? And here is a fascinating structure that we can pull out of Genesis 1 for very practical purposes, okay? So the first thing that God tells, that he says, let us make man in our image, okay? So he spoke, he said, let there be, and then he spoke to the waters, then he spoke to the land, then he spoke to the land again to bring up the animals, and then he said, he spoke to himself, let us make man in our image, in our likeness, and let them have dominion over the earth. Now, I don't know about you, but I kind of, anytime that we feel stuck, what we're actually wanting to do is have dominion, right? Like we're saying, oh, I don't have dominion. I don't like not having dominion in this area. I want to solve for dominion in this area, right? Enoch, you ever feel like you want to solve, you want to have dominion in an area? Right?
Can you unpack, what does it mean to have dominion in an area?
Okay, it's really
like conquer a problem, solve a problem.
Conquer a problem.
Yeah.
Solve an issue.
All the time.
Dominion comes from, like, you take kingdom. If you take the word kingdom, it's the king's domain, or the king's dominion, the place in which he has rule and authority. So if you, let's say you're overweight. Many of our clients might be overweight. Okay, well, if they're overweight, they don't have dominion in the area of their weight.
So feeling, instead of being like mastered by my circumstances, feeling like a ruler or a master of my circumstances in that like overweight area. Kind of like that too?
Exactly. So they're not, and so they want to be.
Got it.
Right? And so we want these things, and so if you want this thing, that means you're not mastered in the area of that thing. Generally speaking, there's circumstantial differences, but generally speaking, on the whole, if you look at it from a long-term standpoint, if you are not having continual success in an area, then you don't have dominion in that area. And usually it's really hard to diagnose the problem as to why I don't have dominion. Okay? And there's 3 different sections that you can encounter in that book of Genesis. It says, the first thing he says, he blessed them and he says to them, be fruitful, multiply, fill up the earth, subdue it, and have dominion. So there is a 3-step process to get to the dominion. Now this is going to blow everyone's mind for a second, okay? So hope y'all can see it. Let me actually move to this so you can see this right here. Okay. So let's just map it out. Fruitful, multiply, fill up,
and replenish.
Subdue. Yeah, filling up is replenish.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, fruitful, multiply, fill up, subdue. Here's fascinating. Okay? So, what is fruitful? So, if we go back to what fruitful actually means, its seed is in itself. You can define it a few verses up. A thing is fruitful if it has seed inside itself that makes that seed show up on the outside. Okay? So most people have a dream, they have a desire, they have this thing inside them. They want to conquer their health. They want to have a health coaching business. They want to have it, so they have this seed inside themselves. So what do? The first thing they do is they start producing. You start doing stuff, right? So to be fruitful, you produce. But then you don't just produce, you start multiplying your production, okay? That's what seeds do. They proliferate.
So it's like we start producing content, and then we want to proliferate.
We start producing content. We start producing action. We start going in the direction of, we start walking from Egypt to the promised land. You start a production. You start producing a thing. It doesn't matter what it is, right? So if someone is, for example, overweight, they start producing actions differently than they had before, hoping
like push-ups,
that it will make them lose weight.
Yeah.
Right? Push-ups. Yeah, I'm doing some action. Now, will the push-ups get me there? I don't know yet because I don't have dominion in that area. So we're unsure at this point in time, but you're just doing action. So you're producing, you're laying seeds out to see if these seeds will be the seeds that produce the fruit that you're looking for.
That makes sense.
That's what you're doing. You're producing, right?
So also like creating products, like producing a product, packaging our knowledge into a coaching program or a book, or we're just producing. Got it.
100%. Now here's the issue. Because we live in a world of Newton's third law, there's an equal and opposite reaction to every action. Okay? So as soon as you plant any of these seeds, you're going to have an equal and opposite reaction with the world itself. And the seeds themselves, if you look at an apple seed, for example, you take an apple, you open it up, there's multiple seeds inside. Every single seed has a different genetic makeup. And they will not produce the same apple. They grow up, they have a different apple. Every single one of them will have a different tasting apple. Every single one of them will have a different tasting apple because the genetic variation is different. So every time you produce, that genetic variation, if it's a fruitful endeavor, will have an equal and opposite reaction in the world, will mix with the world, and then we'll have a proliferation of multiple repercussions of what you do that you cannot expect and you don't know what's going to do with it, right? You have no idea what all you're going to encounter when you start your push-ups. You don't have any idea what all you're going to encounter when you start producing your content. You have no idea what all you're going to get or what kind of comments you're going to get back. Say you produce some content.
That can create some fear, uncertainty.
It's complete uncertainty, okay? So these things happen. So some people get stuck right there, okay? Now, some people get stuck right here, just at producing, okay? But then some people produce a little bit, and they don't get the proliferation that they're working for, okay? Now, here's what's wild, okay? Now, once this proliferation happens, guess what? Because that proliferation itself is also an equal and opposite reaction to the world, then you've expanded you fill up to capacity your entire world. You don't have a choice. It just happens. How many of y'all, let me ask y'all a question. How many of y'all, tell me the truth now, how many of y'all use all your 24 hours every single day doing something. Wave at me, right? Like, there's nobody that gets 26 hours a day. Everyone gets 24, and you use 100%. You might sleep through it. You might drink coffee. You might produce content. Whatever you do, you fill up to capacity. Everyone is at capacity all the time.
Every day.
No one ever that is not at capacity. Everyone is always at capacity, unless you straight come out of the womb, right? And even then, you just getting some mommy milk as spending your 24 hours of time, right? So what happens? So you've reached capacity. So it permeates. Fix that right quick. It permeates, and this is where it gets really, 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 really important.
I'm looking forward to it. This is good.
Permeates, okay? It permeates your existence. It fills up. You're at capacity. So this young lady that you were talking to, right? And she had filled up her capacity. She says, I don't have more time. See, here's the problem, okay? I don't have more time to be fruitful. I can't produce any more. I can't do more. I'm already at capacity. Okay? I can't invest in no program, right? Like, I can't read no more books. You know, I can't show up for a challenge and spend 5 days or 3 days or 10 days or 2 days doing things. I'm permeated. My entire existence is already permeated. It's already filled up. I am at capacity. Well, that's really fascinating, right? Because that's just like a fruit tree. There's a certain point in time where it starts putting all the branches out. The root systems can't produce no more branches. It just can't. But guess what? There's some branches that's not actually producing the fruit you want. It's just busy activity that's not producing. It's not being fruitful. It's not actually delivering. You're pulling seeds from your inside, but they suck. Some of the seeds you suck out, like if you plant apple seeds, all of them will produce apples, pretty much. Some of those apples will be so bitter, so sour, nobody can eat them.
That's true.
And that's the deal, because some of your production is bad production. It's doing the wrong things. And not only are you doing the wrong things are proliferating. Because you're getting an equal and opposite reaction of your proliferation. And then that is permeating, and so you've exponentially multiplied the bad fruit. And so you're saying, but I'm trying so hard, I'm working so hard, this is so wrong. Problem is you haven't focused on subduing. What is subduing? Subdue is a compound word. It's to subdue, put things lower in their proper place and order. So you're putting things in its proper place and order. Do you know what that means? That means this. The next step after permeation is always to prune. You have to prune that production that is not yielding the right proliferation, that's not yielding the right permeation, but instead only brings the thing you don't desire. So what do you have to do? You have to prune out those. What is that? That's a hierarchy of value.
I like. It reminds me of what Brendon Burchard said when he said, sometimes, a lot of times, your busy work is stealing from your life's work. And it's like, we got to stop doing what's not working so we can start learning or start doing what actually works. So I love what you're saying. This makes a lot of sense.
And so the thing is because someone's life is already permeated, you can't. So here's the deal. You're already ranking order with a hierarchy of value. Hierarchy of value. You're already ranking order what's most important things to do. So these are all production activities. You're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this.
Like my mama always said, our best thinking got us here.
Our best thinking got us here. And so here's the deal. You may have, so if you want to lose weight, for example, here's a great example. You may want to lose weight, and you think that's really high on your hierarchy of value. for example, right? But here's the problem. You like the taste of donuts better.
Yeah.
So as long as the taste of donuts, the pleasure of donuts, is higher on your hierarchy of value than losing weight, you will always be unhealthy. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense.
And so what do you have to do? You have to
Eat prunes.
subdue, right? You have to prune. You have to subdue and put things in its proper place. How do you do that? How do you know? Because guess what? Your best thinking already got you there. How do you figure out how to reorganize the actions that will and won't?
The way I do it is get a mentor.
That's exactly where I was going. You go to the mentor that's already producing that. They already have dominion in that area. They've already pruned that which isn't working. And they can look at what you're doing and show you what you have to prune. And then you get radical fast succession. Otherwise, you have to spend 40 years in the wilderness because you're unwilling to yield to the pruning.
Wow. Wow.
That's what happens. Because God had to get the Egypt out of the Israelites because they were unwilling to get out of it. So he had to let that entire generation pass that was in bondage because they was going to rebuild that bondage in the promised land. And that couldn't happen. So you don't want to rebuild the bondage that you're already in. What you want to do is you want to find a mentor, you want to find a coach, you want to find a system that can produce that which you've not yet produced, right? Something that already has dominion in an area and that can help you prune out what is not fruitful. So I hope that was helpful. I think that usually when I share that with people, it really blows their mind because it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize. So you mean to tell me all I have to do is yield and do what the coach and mentor says? Yeah, here's what you do. You look at testimonials, you look at their track record. If they are actually helping people produce the dominion they seek in a certain area, then guess what? They can help you do that, most likely. If they've done it themselves and they repeated it over and over and over again, that's the reason why Enoch has shelled out hundreds of thousands of dollars on mentors. That's the reason why I have shelled out hundreds of thousands of dollars on mentors. Why? Because it gets you there faster because it shows you what to prune. The ultimate coach is God himself. What does he tell you to do? What is the 10 Commandments? It's a hierarchy of value teaching you what you prune.
Yeah.
That's in what proper order. That's what it is. That's the reason why it came right after the golden calf. Because they had a hierarchy of value and they had built the golden calf. They were resurrecting Egypt in the desert with the golden calf. He had to bring a new 10 Commandments to do that same thing, but you can take that you can apply that principle, that pattern to your marketing side of things, because if you got the health knowledge and you know you can produce the results, but you don't have clients, then you have dominion in this area, not in this. The problem is you have some production problems, which is actually basically the same thing as repentance on a microcosm scale. Because metanoia in Greek, repentance, means to change your mind and change your direction.
Yeah, like turning away.
Enoch, you said just a second ago, you have to rethink the way you were thinking in order to be successful.
Yeah.
That is the definition of repentance, because you had to change the direction of your thoughts. That's the same thing as pruning. You had to prune the thoughts that wasn't working and put in the thoughts that aren't working. Those become seeds. Those have a natural equal and opposite reaction with the world. They will proliferate, they will permeate, and then it's all over again with the pruning until you reach the dominion.
This makes so much sense what you're saying, because like you shared with health in the very beginning of this interview, we have many things to learn and many things to unlearn. Because while the popular education is showing that these diseases are not reversible, many of these chronic diseases, but when we realize how much lifestyle, nutrition, and these simple natural things that God has given us the ability to heal itself, in learning the health education, we had so many things to unlearn and relearn. Same thing with learning health marketing. There's a lot of like misinformation that we got from people who've never had a successful business. Like what you were saying is that people aren't interested in changing. People don't want to change their diet or their health. And I'm like, we have 15,500 paying clients who've actually paid to transform their life, their diet, their lifestyle, who are interested. So it's like, that's not something that you do by accident. There's a system for being able to do that. So as a lot of people think that there is nobody wants to hear, well, it's because the system, the manner in which we're presenting it is oftentimes not the same way that we actually relearned ourselves. So what you're saying makes a lot of sense. It's the pruning of...
To me, this is the foundation of marketing. Because see, what you have to do as a marketer is help them prune the bad ideas out of their mind to make them want to shift the way they do things. And if you can then create a system that does that on automatic, so it doesn't require you clocking in and out every day.
That's exactly right.
Changes everything.
So true. In fact, there's a chapter in my book that is called The Automation Effect. And it talks about what really it shows how to start getting clients on demands where you're able to automate your client acquisition and keep and retain the customers, because that's a skill that a lot of health educators don't know. But when you have those systems in place, it doesn't require you to physically be there every time you make a sale, and it makes a huge difference. So
it really does change the name of the game. In fact, in Genesis, you see God automating every system as he goes. He makes light, and then he governs day and night. He designates them. He first defines or declares, and then he discerns whether that thing that he did was good or not. It's the same process, by the way. And then he divides out that which is not that. He separates the light from the darkness. And then he calls it, he designates it, gives a designation, and creates an automation for it. And the sun and the moon and the stars was actually the designation or the automation for that system. The seed-bearing thing itself is the automation for everything. It actually is, everything about it at every fundamental level is an automation system. The birds is a fundamental automation system to spread seeds over the whole face of the earth. The animals are an automation system to eat the plants when they get out of hand, to keep them low rather than growing into a jungle where they can't. And then man is then the automation system to govern the order of the world. Everything is an ordered governmental automation system. Now, and then if you want to automate and go further, you have to automate those areas of your life so that you can predictably produce the proliferation that's going to permeate so that you don't have to prune that area anymore, and it automatically produces the fruit you desire. But then it's the constant battle because of the equal and opposite reaction, there'll always be new problems that show up, which actually creates new products, new services, new systems. You need to hire new people. You have to hire new automation systems. You have to create new automation systems, like all these things. But all those things, if you tie them to a monetary standpoint, then it makes you more and more and more money as you go, and you help more and more people as you go at the same time.
That's beautiful. And because truly, like in business and life, the quality of our life and business comes down to the quality of the problems that we have. The goal isn't to get rid of all of our problems and get to a place where we have no problems. It's by solving increasingly more valuable, higher leverage problems, and that's where we get a great business. So I want to switch gears a little bit. I got two more questions I want to ask you. One thing that you're really good with, and I know a lot of people in my audience, they have a hard time with selling. When it comes to like health education, they're like, yeah, I can tell you shit, I love it. I just talk all about these things. But when it comes to actually like the selling conversation, maybe about pricing, about profiting from their health knowledge or monetizing their knowledge, charging a price for their health advice, it's really challenging. They get a lot of people looking for things for free, but they have a hard time charging it. So could you talk into a little bit about profit and selling and just like how can people think, health educators rethink or unlearn some of the selling hindrances that holds them back?
100%. May we do some pruning with a story?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Cool. So I'm gonna actually market. So let's do it in real time. Let's market to your audience that's having trouble selling. So the belief is that selling is icky, ucky, yucky, badness. Even profiting itself is some kind of weird. I don't want to charge too much. I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to get rich on this. I'm scared. Like you don't want to take advantage of people. That's a completely different. That's completely. You don't want to take people's money. That is valuable. You do not want to take away people's money from them. That's honorable. Okay? But it is not what profit is. It's a complete misunderstanding of what profit is. So let's just break something down for a second. First of all, let's observe what is commonly an objection to the word profit, right? Or earning money, things like that. People misunderstand profit as getting someone's money. Somehow finagling around, reaching into their pocket without them realizing it. So people get scared going to a car lot because somehow the car salesman is going to, with his silver tongue, reach into their pockets and they don't know what's going on and that can happen. That can happen, but that's not profit. That's the opposite of profit. Let me tell you a story. So let's say that there's a young youth minister, okay, and he's shepherding a small church. The small church can't actually pay him a full salary. But he's kind of a handyman. He's kind of a mechanical-minded person. He's kind of creative. So regularly he goes onto Facebook marketplaces to get ideas to figure out what he could do to buy and sell and make a little extra cash. So one day he's on his way home from church and he sees this old brick house, fairly small. He sees this old kitchen table in the front yard. Everybody follow me right now. So imagine this big old table. And he don't think much about it, but then he goes home and he goes to Facebook Marketplace and he's looking at some of the stuff. He's like, man, a lot of these old dining room tables that are like going for like $1,000. So, backstory, Henry and Henrietta live in this small brick house. And the reason why they have an old table out in their front yard is because their grown daughter, it's a few weeks before Thanksgiving, 30 days before Thanksgiving, and their grown daughter just brought them a brand new dining room suit. Their mom was so excited. Henrietta was so excited. She'd been dreaming about one for years. And so they were like, what are we going to do with this old table? What are we going to do with it? And Henry was like, he had just had surgery on his hip. Like, he just didn't have, he thought about selling it. He was like, you know what? Let's just let the dump take it. Let's just put it out there by the garbage cans. Let the city take it. Well, they didn't take it the next day like they expected. So Henry called the city, and the city said, it's larger than what we take. We can take it, but we'll have to bill you $50 to take it away and haul it away. And so he figures, I guess that's what I'm going to have to do. He kind of grumbles about it, doesn't like the idea because, he's going to have to get this taken away. And, the table's been pretty rough condition. The top of it is very rough, right? All the paint's peeling off, right? The legs are weak. There's a lot of problems with it. Now, this young minister, we'll call him Jack, because he's kind of a jack of all trades. Jack decides to knock on the door one day. He knocks on the door, and he says, hello there. Now, he's got khakis on, right? Because he's been this minister, so he's got khakis on. He's got a button-up shirt. First thing Henrietta says, I'm sorry, we're not buying any encyclopedias, and we're Baptist. And he says, no, ma'am, I'm not trying to sell you anything. In fact, I'd like to buy your table that's in your front yard. Henry comes to the door and says, how much would you give for it? He said, I'll give you $100 for it. He says, sold. Okay? So at this point in time, remember it was going to cost Henry and Henry had $50 to get it taken away. They were going to be negative $50. Here comes Jack. He's going to offer them $100 for this thing. Okay? Then what does Jack do? He loads it up. He goes to the hardware store. He gets screws, stain. He gets sandpaper. He gets shellac, okay, and polyurethane to cover it up, okay, to make it nice and smooth and clear and edible on. And then he goes to work on it for a little while. And you know what? He lists it
for $1,000 on Facebook Marketplace. And then all of a sudden, guess what? He gets a hit. And someone says, you know what? I was going to go pick up a table today because my daughter's just getting married and she loves these old vintage tables. But you know what? I like yours, but I tell you what, I've already got a deal worked out with someone else for about $1,200, a new one. It's like it's about $1,200. He says, could you get me a deal on your $1,000? He said, I'll give it to you for $800. Jack says that. He says, so he goes and gets that. And guess what? This guy does not spend the $1,200 for the new one. Instead, for his daughter's wedding, he pays $800. Okay, now, and he has a happy daughter. So the daughter comes home from her honeymoon with a brand new, a reclaimed dining room table, okay? So she comes to the table with nothing, right? Now, her father was planning on spending $1,200, ends up spending $800. Now, Henry and Henrietta came to the table with -50, and they walk away with 100. And then what does Jack walk away with? Somewhere around, he spends about $50 at the hardware store. So he makes about what, $650, about $650, right? Something like that. All right, so here's the question. He profited, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Now, if we're going to use the definition of profit, everyone came to the table, someone came to the table with less, left with more. Who else profited?
Henry and Henrietta, they profited. Even their daughter, their grown daughter who gave him the suite, they profited. A Facebook Marketplace, he profited. He got a better deal than what he was going to buy for the wedding, and his daughters profited too, who had the wedding.
And the hardware store.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense.
And the hardware store's employees, because they sold things.
Yeah.
Because the hardware store marked things up, and they sold things. They were able to pay their workers so that their workers could pay for their own electricity at their home.
Yeah.
And pay for their own.
Feed their families.
Because of one man's willingness to seek after profit, not trying to get people's money, but actually being externally focused rather than internally. I don't want to be like this. This is internally focused. It's the opposite of a service mentality.
It's focusing on yourself.
A service mentality is to seek what someone else values and to help them receive that value and to accept as a trade something of a lower nature in order to receive that value. So if someone voluntarily will reach into their pocket, that man was super excited from Facebook Marketplace. He saved $400 and didn't get the new one because she liked the vintage one better. So she was better off. He was better off. Henry and Henrietta was better off. Jack was able to continue being the minister of that small church because he didn't need the salary from the members.
So then all the members also profited from his ministry because he profited from the table.
Exactly, because he couldn't have stayed there had he not been engaged in this type. This is the reason why the Apostle Paul was a tent maker and sold it, right? Apostle Paul said, let every man mind his own business so that he can walk honestly to them that are outside the faith. Like if you want to change someone's life, you can do so by running a business. You can help them. Do you think honestly that someone would rather chop their leg off for diabetes and spend 50 grand doing so, or pay you 10 grand to make it go away forever, keep their legs and get in the floor with the grandkids? Which one do you think is more profitable to them?
I'd rather pay 10 grand, save 40,000, pay 10 grand, save my leg, have more life with my grandkids.
Exactly. But people think they're trying to get people's money. Their goal is to produce profit. And so what I tried to do with that story is to prune out your old definition of profit, an incorrect definition of profit that you've been living with, that you've proliferated and permeated into your existence that did not allow you to produce the fruit you needed to produce. So what we just did is we removed that in with that single story, with that single way. And Enoch is one of the biggest experts at helping people learn how to tell stories in a way that helps them reanalyze and prune out the activities in their life that's not giving them a 10x, 100x, 1000x payout, not just monetarily, right? But in effort, in energy,
in time,
in actual production, like impact in the world. Like, he has helped thousands of people. My business has helped thousands of people, right? Tens of thousands of people we have run through our challenge. Over 10,000 people we've run through our 5-day weight loss challenge. Do you know how many messages we get on a daily basis telling people, people sending us messages telling us it was the best money they've ever spent in their lifetime? Do they think we took something away from them? No, they actually gained because of it. In fact, we have a client right now that saved $600 a month in food because he changed the type of food he was, and he didn't change the type of food until he purchased a $1,500 program from us. We sold him a $1,500 program. And guess what? And this is not like business to business. This is a business to consumer. And he made it up in the first couple months. He will gain the rest of that $600 a month for the rest of his life in perpetuity. We figured it up. He could literally buy a truck with the food savings after he already paid for the product.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Like, he had enough to pay an entire car payment, a truck payment, not just car, a truck payment in order with the amount of money that he saved because of something he didn't even know. That was he's more wealthy now, and to be honest, he needed that money because he had to buy a whole bunch of new clothing and outfit because of all the weight he lost. Right? So, like, the reality of the situation is, if you can get your head wrapped around it, if you can get yourself into an environment of people that will prune the right ideas, the wrong ideas out of you, and put the right ideas into you, and then you execute on that, changes not your life. It changes everyone's life and your life. If you do it right. If you're actually chasing profit rather than chasing money. Because profit means you've got their best interest at heart. You will not walk away from the table until you know that they and you both came to the table with less, left the table with more.
I love that story. And piggybacking like a little deeper too, what breaks my heart is seeing so many health educators who have the ability to give a health knowledge that could save people money on their groceries, save money on surgeries, to extend their life longer and not have to take all these drugs that are not helping them, it's just managing. And if you look at Jack, the young minister who's helping, exactly, and a lot of times it is harming them. So if you look at Jack, if Jack had limiting beliefs about profiting and pursuing profit, and he did not sell the table, think about all the people who suffered because Jack was thinking, like churchianity likes to teach, is selling is not Christ-like. Profiting is not purposeful. Or when you're doing profit, if you're gaining profit, it's not as spiritual of a service, or it's selfish to make money from that. And you think about a lot of times what happens is people who have a heart to serve, who want to continue to serve people, it takes away their service from the older couple, from the wedding, from the hardware store, from all of the people involved in the congregation, and then they're forced to go, like, what's the alternative? So now he's going to go trade his time for money working at a mechanic shop, which I did, and then like trading that time for money, no longer is he now going to be in the business where he's able to profit and solve those problems. I see a lot of health educators, they continue to go back doing business, doing their job as usual, their career that's not fulfilling them, not serving the higher purpose they know that they can do. And everybody suffers. Why? Because we continue with the same busy work that's not working.
Exactly, because the wilderness is scary. right? So when you leave Egypt, you have to walk through the waters, and then it's not straight to the promised land. Then it's the wilderness. The wilderness is freaking scary, and you don't know where your food comes from, right? And so many of the Israelites wanted to turn back and go back to Egypt, the same way that many health educators want to go back to the old way, rather than making the proper sacrifices and relying upon the
guide that God has provided too.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
So
I hope that question was helpful. I think you said you had one more question.
Yeah, one more question. That was powerful. Thank you. So last question, final question. Imagine you were in a hospital on your deathbed and you had 5 minutes left to live. And then I handed you a microphone and you had the opportunity. You knew that this microphone, whatever you said, is going to be broadcast to every person on the planet. What last message would you leave our audience with? And it could be about anything. It doesn't even have to continue to be about this topic, but just
bow down to the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, Jesus Christ of Nazareth. That would be it. Be Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego, and don't bow down to any false idol, no matter how hot the fires are, under any circumstance. That hierarchy of value, with God being first, with Jesus being King and Lord of your life, is so much more powerful than anything else you can imagine. If you can imagine a God that exists outside of time, He already knows everything that's going to happen. And He purposed you for those very things. But if you try to use your small vantage point to try to predict what's possible and try to fit into what seems to be most reasonable, then you will miss out on the greatest blessings of your life because you're unwilling to yield. But you have to yield before you wield. And everyone has a king of their life. We are a species that only worship. We have to prioritize, because we live a limited linear existence. We have to put something as most important. The next thing is less important. The next thing is less important. The next thing is less important. If you make Jesus Christ of Nazareth King of Kings and Lord of Lords over your life, I promise you that things will happen in ways, if you're willing to yield to it, that you cannot ever imagine. You will meet people you never imagined. You will solve problems that you could never imagine or think yourself to be able to solve. That would be the last message I would ever. If someone said, please tell me one thing, if I had to tell that to my children, that's what I would tell my children as I was passing out on the, if I was passing out on the ground. That would be the last thing. Seek after the King. And I specifically don't just say Savior and King, because you have to yield as a king, because a king is the highest order of value that you place.
I love it. Yes, absolutely. And making that decision is a daily decision too. And it's
it's not just a daily decision. It's you make about 40 decisions a day, and every one of them's moral, and you don't look at them as a moral decision. If you're hanging up your closet, if you're getting clothes out of your closet, and you knock one off and it falls in the floor, do you bend down, pick it up, and put it back or not? That's part of your character. Is it right for you to pick it up and put it back, or is it not? That's a decision. You're going to make 40 decisions a day, roughly on average. Are you going to make them with Jesus as King of your life, or are you going to make them willy-nilly? Or are you going to say, well, I'm late for this thing, so then therefore I won't do what's right. I won't put the buggy back up at the store because I'm running late. Well, then is that a moral decision, or is it not? I'm not throwing stones at anybody. You can deal with that. Anybody can deal with that themselves. Is it moral for you? For me, it became a moral imperative, because when I was rocking my son to sleep and I looked at him, and it was like God gave me a vision of him at 5 years old, and he asked me why we would serve the food that we wouldn't, to his friends, that we wouldn't eat ourselves as a family. And was I willing to be the type of person that would put making money and security, or the false sense of security, on a higher level of value than doing what I was called to do or doing the right thing. Everyone likes to assume they do the right thing, but we don't do the right thing on a daily basis. Put us in a garden, tell us not to eat the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and we will pick it up every time, because as far as I'm concerned, the knowledge of the tree of good and evil is your belief that you can rank order the hierarchy all by yourself of what's good and evil for you to do. And the only person that can give you with 100% actuality on ranking order the importance of things in your life, the knowledge of the tree of good and evil, the only one that can pick that fruit is Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus Christ himself. Anything else will lead you down to a big ball of chaos.
I totally agree and have experienced that chaos, but really understanding the Bible, starting to read it for myself, and recognizing that the Bible is like the world's greatest health book, medical book, because when I had health challenges, when I applied the biblical principles, my health challenges started to improve. The Bible, I believe, is the world's greatest relationship book. I had terrible friendships, poor relationships with my family and others, but when I started to apply the biblical principles to my relationships, and I'm surrounded with a team, and I have, like, the number one leadership guide in the world is like John Maxwell. I'd say he's been around for decades, and he's like, everything I learned in leadership, I learned from the Bible. And I see, like, Jesus was, according to Times magazine, he is the most influential man in human history. So when it comes to influence or persuasion or marketing, like, Jesus is the world's greatest marketer, and his book the Bible is the greatest marketing business book that has ever existed in the world. When we apply the principles of the Bible to our business, then our business starts to take shape in the way that God originally intended. When God created man, he put man...
turn over tables for no reason.
Yeah, exactly. And when God created man, he gave him a family business.
Right there, right then. That's a hook right there. Turn over tables. Let's do a hook.
That's right. Exactly. And that's exactly why what you teach is based on biblical principles. What I teach is based on biblical principles, and I absolutely love that. So, and just in summary, if anyone's going through this event, or this interview, and you want to dive deeper in monetizing your health knowledge, one thing that I would recommend too is grab a copy of my book on high-ticket health coaching. This is going to show the secrets of making big money with a small audience online. And these are the principles that are being shared today that you can use for monetizing your knowledge, changing the way that you view how to sell and profiting, and understanding how to package your knowledge into programs and products and communicate the value in a way that people actually want to say yes. If you're tired of people not being interested in your health advice, then grab a copy of the book. This is going to teach you how you can actually speak in a way that people will want to pay for what you have. And if people wanted to connect with you, what's some of the best ways to learn more about you?
Well, in the short term, I'm launching some new things, a little more area in the area of marketing and business. But right now, just go to the redlinechallenge.com, and if you want to see a system take place that uses everything that I said this week, or this interview. It's been a long interview. It's like a week. Right? I applaud you if you've been here this long. If you want to watch a system in place as a health professional, if you want to lose a few pounds, it works too. But we have a lose weight, eating more challenge called the Red Line Challenge, where we introduce some concepts. We teach people how to reverse type 2 diabetes, to lose weight eating more food, and to lower their blood pressure in measurable results in less than 5 days. And we run hundreds and hundreds of people there a month. So if you want to go to redlineticket.com, redlineticket.com, you will find our page there. And we have a $7 challenge. So you can watch the whole thing for $7. You can, we offer some many other things throughout the challenge, but we have 5 days. And that's one of the ways that we give People get measurable, real results. They spend $7, they're going to have a lifetime of useful knowledge that they actually can continually lose weight with and excel with the rest of their life. And then if they want to go further and they want to work on applying and doing some new tools, you'll see how I introduce those new tools, how I productize those new tools, if you watch the challenge through the filter of marketing. And then it also makes sure by offering these different products that it serves the people the product they need. Because if your problem is putting a nail in a piece of wood, then you need a hammer. But if instead you need to put a very thin piece of wood up, you might just need a staple instead, right? And so not every product is for every person. And so marketing sorts that to make sure that people get the right thing. For example, Enoch just mentioned a few minutes ago, he's got his book is Precision Perfect. How do you build a high-ticket health coaching business with a small audience? How do you make a way that you can step away from your career as fast as possible with a very small audience, without millions of subscribers on Facebook, without millions of YouTube subscribers, without all this stuff? How do you actually cut through and make plenty of money, more than you can ever dream of? And then once you do that, you can then scale out, create lower ticket products. You can do all kinds of things. Enoch can show you how to do all that kind of stuff. He has a whole system on the back end that he shows people how to do. It's insane. It's really cool. He's such a cool guy. And I appreciate this opportunity to have a conversation and help you out any way possible, help the audience out as many. I'm producing profit right now, right? Like we did not charge you guys anything to watch this. There's value here that if you apply them, I promise you, will affect your life tremendously, right? And then if you see in the future one of my books come up, I'm working on one right now, hey, maybe you want to get a copy, read through it, and gather some more stuff, right? We'll both profit, both here and later, because it's a blessing just to be here with you, blessing to be here with Enoch. And, I told him at the end of the day, at the beginning of the call before we went recording, I said, here, I'm here for you. I'm here for your audience. I don't have anything to push, to peddle, to promote right now, specifically for any specific purpose other than delivering value. If it's value to someone, if you want to lose weight, you can go to redlineticket.com. If you want to watch the challenge not to lose weight, but you already have your health expertise, that's fine. You can watch it from the perspective of the marketing funnel. Well, guess what we just did? We just shift the purpose of my product for you in that moment, right? That's things I'm not going to talk about during the challenge. You'll have to actually watch them and observe them and catch them as they happen, and you'll be able to see that fruitful, multiply, fill up, and subdue process in real time if you watch the challenge through that filter. So I would recommend that for you if you want to, but if not, either way, keep following Enoch, keep listening, keep learning, keep doing your information and your environment. Shift your information, shift your environment, right? Because you have a pattern and a behavior of the way you need to do, and that's exactly like someone that's addicted to a terrible drug, right? They have a habitual process of addiction, which is just, addiction is a fancy word for saying a habit of doing this right here, right? What do they have to do? They have to go and set themselves in a different information, different environment in order to disconnect from all those triggers that's keeping them from doing so. This is something that you can do if you truly have a calling to do something in the health arena. If you truly want to make a difference, want to make an impact, and truly feel called in this way, and the King's leading you this way, I'm telling you, one of the best things you can do is to plug in with different information, different environment than what you're doing now. Get 100 brains working on your problem, not just you by yourself. You're going to serve more people. You're going to make more impact. It's going to be amazing. My name is Rawlin Vanetta. Thanks so much. And thank you for this interview, Enoch. It's appreciated. And I had a blast talking with you guys.
That's awesome.
I'm fulfilling my purpose right now doing it. So I always have a blast doing it. So
I love it. I feel the same way too. And when you get your book out, I want to be one of your first buyers. I look forward to it. And I'm going to read that because literally every conversation I've had from you has been super profitable. I learned great things and enjoy it. I'd love to have you back on in the future. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see Rawlin here, because clearly he's a wellspring of practical real life experience and knowledge, and he's got so much to share. If you'd like to see him there, just say bring Rawlin back. And I'd love to hear from you. So thank you so much for coming, and everyone watching, go ahead and subscribe and follow for more videos just like this. We're going to do more interviews with some of my network, my contacts. We're going to be bringing into you, pulling back some of the curtains, and helping you to monetize your health knowledge online. Thank you so much for watching, friends. Remember, God doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called. Have a great day, and God bless.